editor who works every day with stories, and I also write. So to just add a few things, maybe from an editor on the desk angle. So one of the things that I notice a lot, especially in scientific stories, is that the angling is always all over the place. So for example, that I've come here, there's a lot of information. Even for one person, we cannot be able to publish all that story, or all those things that we have learned. They are very good things, but at the back of our mind, first of all, we have to think about the publication, the platform, who are we targeting this message for, and ask the hard questions. So a lot of times you'll find, you get someone who is pitching, not even pitching, they just send you a story, publish this, and you're like, who is this meant for? For what reason, and why now? So I think there's a lot of times that we don't ask the hard questions as the people who are on the other side. So you find, because first of all, maybe you sent also to the wrong person. Even editors are different. That's why Macharia was saying, understand how the media works. So maybe sometimes the editors are different. So if you send someone who doesn't deal with that subject, they might just trash that story. Sometimes also the way the messaging is different. So I think I don't think this is more from the expert's point of view, but I'm sure you have your communication people who can direct you on the best way to angle your stories and also help you with better messaging. So a lot of the things that, because I am in the lifestyle desk, and sometimes human interest, a lot of times I do human interest stories. So those are the stories that have a longer, they have a personal touch. So a lot of times, because maybe in this industry or the sector, people don't understand how can we personalize our message? How can we make Phyllis, Macharia feel this, they have a stake in this message? So a lot of stories are told from a very newsy, very outsider perspective, and it's always good if you could bring out the human interest angle, and in terms of, like for example, the way you brought a farmer, if she can bring her own story, if there's a consumer on the other end. So that would really help people internalize the message and help them understand it from their own perspective. What is at stake if GMO doesn't, if we don't allow GMO, from a personal perspective, not from a Kenyan perspective, but from that one person. How will it impact them? So of course, case studies are important. So if you have case studies, whether negative or positive, I think I've watched a lot of documentaries on YouTube from media houses elsewhere that basically bring out the positive, sometimes the negative of all this sort of scientific research. So I think the other thing that I wanted to add is also sometimes you want to pursue a story, and sometimes there's a lot of bureaucracy in the organizations, and the experts are not available, and they don't understand that in the news industry we work from, like if I can call you now, I will be asking for a quote in the next, I just want you to comment. A lot of times it's like, no, I need to go back to my director, my CEO, then it goes back, then a week later, we are still going through the approval stages. That boat has already sailed by that time. So I think availability of experts and information is very important, and reducing the bureaucracy. I think this also is something I've encountered, which from a personal perspective, where experts or scientists tend to micromanage stories. So you have sent a writer, for example, you're writing a story, and then the expert is saying, no, you cannot publish until my director approves. We are not in the position of sharing what we are going to publish. So a lot of times it's like if you're giving us a lot of trouble getting that information out, what we'll do is we mostly likely will set the story aside because it's too complicated to get the approvals. Or sometimes we publish the story and instead of looking at it from a bigger perspective, it's like, oh, there was supposed to be this, you didn't put this word that I wanted you to put. You did not put a comma here, you know? So I think it's good to, even as we look at the messaging, don't workshop it too much, look at the bigger picture. So I think finally, make it to Macharia has said, of the difference between, like, if we sit in this room, there's a lot of information that is very good, but when you go to the ground, ground is different. So how can we be able to bridge the gap between what the person out there knows and what in this room many of the experts are talking about? Thank you.
Thank you, Felix, for your insights. Because of time, we are going